Welcome to Happy Hill, the podcast. We deliver meaningful content to grow your faith, well-being, and lifestyle. Hey neighbor, I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, lifestyle coach, inspiring others to develop self-worth through leadership applications that will enable them to live in purpose. Welcome to the neighborhood. Happy Hill, the podcast. Happy family, welcome back to another edition of Happy Hill, the podcast. This is season 8. Happy Hill, the podcast presents School of Leadership. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, and I want to thank you for joining us again here in the neighborhood. And I'm super excited to kind of, I guess you can say, continue this conversation around leadership and continue to provide you with some applications, taking what I feel is leadership common sense and really putting it into leadership common practice. Okay. So, really developing, really discussing habits, right? We're going to get into some behavior, changes that the purpose of this series is truly to ignite the leader in you and hopefully help raise up the next generation of leaders. Yeah, help raise up the next generation of leaders. Leadership is definitely, I love to do. I have a passion for it. And it was, I would say, birthed from my father. My father was a pastor, and he gave me my first leadership book, John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Very great book if you never read it. And it really changed my trajectory around leadership because I now was able to kind of pick up on behaviors. I was able to see strategically how leaders conduct themselves, how they lead others, and how they develop leadership skills to continue to be an effective leader. And that really kind of put me on this journey as I kind of think back now around leadership that really provided, ignited the leader within me. So, this series of School of Leadership, as I said, is going to really take, uh, it's going to really highlight myself. When I say myself, is along with myself and some guest neighbors, we're going to share our how tos, our expertise, our experiences around our leadership journey. And family, nothing that I'm going to share with you is going to be earth shattering. But as I said before, really what I hope to get, what I hope to convey to you is these applications that you can apply to your leadership development, your leadership journey. Okay. So, School of Leadership, if you haven't already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. That was a and like button. And make sure you stay in the loop. Put those notifications on. And hey, do me a favor, family, share this with someone. As I said before, share with a young person or someone uh, that you feel that would definitely benefit from it. Even if you feel they wouldn't benefit from it, go ahead and share it with them. um, Today, I want to discuss. I want to discuss a topic of leadership that is very self-driven. Okay, it's really about developing these habits and develop these habits around the topic of rest. Rest. There's a how can I put this? There's a topic of discussion on pretty much a lot of media outlets due to the pandemic and some of the ramifications and some of the uh, things that have came from the pandemic that has now been uncovered. One of them had been around the Great Resignation, and now you're hearing another term around quiet quitting, and all of it stems from a feeling that individuals here in America has felt for quite some time, and the pandemic truly was the straw that broke the camel back, so to speak, and that was burnt out, feeling burnt out. And while I won't try to define burnt out, because it can look different in for different people and for different circumstances, but when you think about the essence of burnt out, it is truly a lack of rest, right? Is getting to the essence of I don't feel rejuvenated. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel restful, you know? And it was during the pandemic that I started to take a moment to pause. And in these moments, as I have gotten older, I love them because now I examine things and just kind of question, different things from the element of learning, right? Because what I learned in my 30s, now I'm seeing a different perspective now as I enter into my 40s, right? It's these learnings that evolve, right? Where you get a different perspective of it. And one of them has been around rest. During the pandemic, I really started to examine rest. And by no surprise, as the first place I examined it through was through the Bible. As you know, big faith believer. And I started there, right? And I was surprised to see that the word rest was mentioned in the Bible over 200 something, or over 200 times. And I was like, oh wow, you know. Now I'm not sure on the word count where that may fit, but as I did some little research, it's pretty high up there as relates to just words. And as I did a little bit more digging, just kind of understanding the definition, I started to see, hey, resting, which no surprise, is used as a verb as well as a noun. And as I started to do a little bit more, I started really questioning, really like, God, now when you created heaven and earth, you rested. As you see, if you read beginning of Genesis, God even implemented a method to rest that was observed in the Old Testament as well as in the New Testament. When you think about uh, uh, Sabbath, the day of Sabbath, it's a day of rest. And as I thought about a little bit more and just kind of again, just really just examine, I saw Jesus. Many times during Jesus' journey, Jesus would often go off in solitude to rest as a way of resting, as a way of removing himself, and as a way of finding ways to renew his strength. And as I did a little bit more thinking and a little bit more research, I came across an American psychologist, which we pretty much have heard of the hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow, even himself, as through his manifesto in the early 1940s, he wrote around the basic survival needs, the foundational survival needs in order for humans to reach their full potential. Again, there it was. Rest as a means of sleeping was a basic survival need or foundational survival need that needs to be met in order for humans to fully reach their potential. And as I really start to examine it, I'm at a point now where I feel I'm able to develop good habits in order to create a lifestyle around rest or to create rest as a lifestyle. So, what I want to do is provide to you these habits. These habits. We're going to talk in more detail about these habits that will encourage us to develop a lifestyle of rest. Okay. Before I do that, I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning of my conversation around burnt out and really when you think about like how did we get here? I believe when you think about our culture and everything right now is has always been a go 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 go. We live in this instant culture where we want things now, and I mean right now. Many of us, when I think about like this whole movement around securing the bag, got to get the bag. This thing about I'm a boss, you know. Everybody these days is an entrepreneur, you know. Everybody these days is looking to pick up another. It's my side gig, my side hustle. I mean, think about it. Your side hustle, as if your main hustle was not enough, that you had to pick up a side hustle. I mean, just think about this, right? Just take a moment and let's just think about it, right? And when I think about a little bit further, and I think about like what prevents us, what creates this burnout that limits our ability to rest. I think one of the biggest things that I had to come to understand it is we have those that experience burnout, those experience a lack of rest. I think one of the reasons we experience those things is a lack of healthy eating, a lack of a healthy lifestyle. And what I mean by that is as I think about my own life and I think about when I am at my peak where I'm at, I am very productive, when I'm most effective is when I am in the rhythm of healthy eating, exercising, all those things, because it helps me to reach my full potential to be effective husband, father, entrepreneur, worker. And I think about it, when you have a lack of eating or a lack of healthy living, again, it's not just eating, but lack of exercising. And again, as I said, family, these are not earth shattering. When you think about it, we sit and think, right? Like when you sit and ponder on this, it's like, yeah, it's not earth shattering. When you think about some of the diseases and health issues that we encounter here, a lot of it is around stress. A lot of it is around the lack of rest, you know, and the way we eat. When you think about other areas that cause us to not rest, or in this case, that prevents us from developing a lifestyle of rest. The other one, especially, and this is a leader, as a leader, the lack of prioritizing. We don't The lack of prioritizing will cause you to be busy. And family, I'm at a point now, and you got to help me out. Call me out if you hear me. Call me out now, family. If you hear me say this, I want to remove from my vocabulary busy from the context of effectiveness, right? We people ask, "Hey, how you doing, man? Just been busy. It's just staying busy, man. Just staying busy." Like, I had to come to a state of awareness. It's like, what am I really saying? And when I started to really understand that, oh, I'm just kind of in this whole go, 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 go rat race, and you wonder why you feel burnt out. You feel that you are experiencing a lack of rest. It's because you busy. And we now, for whatever reason, have equate busyness to effectiveness. And when we're experiencing a lack of rest, especially as leaders, one of those factors could be a lack of prioritizing. Another one is a lack of delegating. Hmm. Now, this speaks to me directly, leaders. I had to really take this into action, right? And eat some of my own cooking. And especially speaking to the control freaks. Yeah, me. I had and I think it's somewhat of a gift and a curse, right? Because again, speaking to the servant leaders, to the creative leaders, it's like our passion. This is our passion. And part of our passion is really uh 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 taking our hands in something, putting out, like, really holding on, and to guard it, to push it out, to do all these things. And part of that, again, that may be the gift, but the curse is that we don't do a good job at delegating. That may mean, excuse me, we don't do a good job as incorporating automative processes that we can delegate these very repetitive tasks to. Okay. It may also means that we do not know how to say I need help. Mm. And that hit me because we're now getting into some core, some emotional core around maybe some walls that we have put up. And when I think about, like, my father, and I think about his pastoral journey, him and my mom, both of them were pastors, and both of them led churches, and both of them was in ministry for, like I said, almost 40 years. Knowing what I know now, and again, sitting back and reflecting, right? While I definitely I understood why, and understand why he may have went the way that he did, as far as, like, going, really working around the church, because he's a servant leader. My father, they were serving. This is, again, sometimes this is the gift that you work, you serve. This is a servant leadership. This is part of your passion. However, the downsides of that is we don't do a good job delegating. And I find fault of that myself. We don't do a good job of delegating, and we run ourselves. We drain ourselves. I have a heart for servant leaders. I have a heart for servant leaders because my father served servant leader. And family, I'm telling you, like, wrap your arms around a servant leader. Make sure you continue to encourage them because they pour so much out to where they are strictly, it's almost their duty, it's their passion to pour themselves out completely, to completely empty themselves through their service. However, the issue that comes is that many times they don't know how to renewal, to renew those strengths, to rejuvenate, to allow others, you know, to help them along the way. That way they're not, exerting so much energy and so much to where, now we're not being effective in moments where we need to be effective, you know? So those things there, when we think about lack of delegation, we talk about lack of delegation, we talk about the lack of prioritizing, the lack of healthy eating, excuse me. The last thing is lack of boundaries. Lack of boundaries. This really speaks to types of rest. And because boundaries are not just necessary, as I have experienced it and have implemented, like downtime. This is my downtime. This is where work cuts off. I'm focusing on family. I'm focused on my wife. Boom, boom, boom. But it's also what I have learned of what we're allowing to come into our psyche, our mental, and our emotions. So my boundaries, again, we all can have different boundaries. Doesn't have to look the same. My boundaries, I had to realize what was becoming triggers and was turning into me feeling very restless was I wasn't putting enough boundaries around certain things that may be TV, social media, all these other things that was causing some mental drainage, some emotional drainage, being overstimulated. So boundaries very key. Okay. So the lack of boundaries cause us to not experience rest. Okay. So as we talk about and we move now into, we talked about some bad habits. Now let's talk about some good habits. Okay. Let's talk about how do we develop, how do we create, how do we foster, how do we build a lifestyle of rest, right? And that's why, again, I say, and I hope you're picking this up as I provide these leadership applications, and being that we are a purpose driven lifestyle brand, we want to make this very much a lifestyle. That's why I say often leadership is not a title, but a choice. It is a habit, it's a discipline, it's a practice, and it's a lifestyle. Okay. It's a lifestyle. So as I was doing my research, I want to use a a concept, or I should say, some things I have learned through just reading that I want to use as an illustration, okay, to really bring home these elements or these habits that I believe will help us. Okay. So I came across a book, Sacred Rest by Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. Okay. Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith. Okay. She wrote Sacred Rest: Recover Your Life, Renew Your Energy, Restore Your Sanity. Okay. And she discusses these 7 types of rest. Okay. That I'm gonna kind of use that as an illustration to discuss these habits that will help us to develop, or in this case, help us um, experience or develop or engage in this type of rest. When we are seeking this type of rest, what habits can we start? What habits do we need to develop? Okay. So I'll get my train of thought. So the 7 types of habits that she discusses in her book is the number one is spiritual rest, or excuse me, 7 type of rest that she discusses in her book: spiritual rest, sensory rest, physical rest, emotional rest, mental rest, creative rest, okay, and social rest. Okay. So as I discuss these areas of habits, I want to kind of again discuss it from the lens of those types of rest. Okay. And as I do this, I want you to again take some notes, family. You use this time to, this is School of Leadership. So take some notes. And if you're driving, you can't take any notes. I understand. Come back to it and really take it in. Okay. So the first habit that I want to talk about is developing a habit of recovery. Okay. And the way that I'm defining that is it's the act of regaining your physical well-being. Okay. So this is again directly to physical rest. You know, as I said before, factors that causes us not to develop a lifestyle of rest, one of them being the lack of a healthy lifestyle. Okay. So when we talking about recovery, one thing that I look at are the way that I'm, to give you some examples. I mean, first and foremost, is eating, making sure that we eating well. And secondly, you know, maybe also incorporating a moment to cleanse your body. Okay. Now, there's different, so many methods of doing that. One thing I like to do each year is during pretty much mid year, I like to do a cleanse. I like to either, typically, this year I did a juicing cleanse, which was good. And then I also did a vegetable and fruit cleanse. That's all I ate was vegetables and fruit, you know, no alcohol, no, any other sweets or anything like that. It was just vegetables and fruit to allow my body to recover, right? Especially as we now go into the winter months. It's important that we get our immune system going, right? And again, when you think about, you know, are you experiencing a lack of rest? I think sometimes the first thing we got to look at is like, hey, how am I eating? What's my eating habits? Because again, if we expect to be out all night, drinking, doing all these other things, I mean, it's no wonder where we may feel a lack of rest. And from there, feeling burnt out. So recovery. It's a type of physical rest. And this habit is all about the act of regaining your physical well-being. Okay. Examples is eating well, exercising, yoga. Okay. Again, nothing earth shattered, right? But again, when we be very when we're excuse me, when we are very intentional about these things, then they become within our purpose. We're able to live in purpose. We're able to then create it as a lifestyle. It becomes a lifestyle, becomes a habit. Okay. Another habit that I want to discuss to help us to develop a lifestyle of rest is develop a habit of experiences. And the way that I'm defining that is creating space to allow yourself to enjoy and appreciate beauty in any form. Now, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith kind of describes this as creative rest. Okay. For those that's needing creative rest, you will kind of go out and maybe take a walk and, take a hike and, paint, start a garden, it's taking in and appreciating all the beauty in any form. And family, when I thought about that and I thought of my own experience, I had to think like, wow, I need to start doing that again. This is something that I I wouldn't say I struggle with, but I need a creative rest. You know, I feel, if I can be honest, I felt busy last couple of weeks. I have felt busy, and I'm in need of a creative rest, because it continues to allow your creative juices to flow, and this speaks directly to those creative um entrepreneurs, creative leaders, content creators, um, you know, those that really uh, do a lot of creating. You're very creative in your entrepreneurial aspirations and your and what you do. And it is very necessary for us to continue to be effective in our creativity is to ensure that we develop a habit of experiences, developing experiences as a habit to allow us to create space. We need to create space to enjoy and appreciate beauty in any form. And again, that can be making sure we walking, like taking a walk, taking in the nature, going on a hike, painting, you know, you can do some other things, scoping, to allow yourself to kind of drift off, not think about work, not think about the problem that you're looking to solve, or because hit your head so many times trying to solve this problem. It's so good to sometimes walk away. You know, at times I need, especially as I have done so many different things throughout Happy Hood, that I've been hit. It's been times I've been hitting my head. I was like, okay, I need a break. And this is creative rest allows you just take a break, create some space, to enjoy and appreciate beauty in any form, in any form. Okay. The next habit that I want to discuss, again, we're talking about habits that will help us to develop a lifestyle of rest, a lifestyle of rest. Okay. And I want to make sure that I say that because I was thinking about this, that as we develop these habits, this practice, this is like preventive measures, right? That we have to take to not to get to that burnout, to that cold red. That cold red, we don't want to get there because at that time we get to the cold red, who knows what other assistance that we may need, whether it's medical, whether it's therapy, you know, and a lot of things we can sometimes begin to nurture ourselves through our habits. Okay. This next one really, as I was thinking about rest and thinking about in different ways of how to develop a lifestyle of rest, as we talked about the lack of prioritizing, how that causes us to be in this busyness type of swirl that we feel like we're being effective, or we kind of busyness. We think that business is effectiveness, but as I learned about stillness, and again, I'm talking about stillness from remaining, right? And as I thought about it as it relates to rest, especially mental rest, it's remain focused on value added priorities. Value added priorities. So when it comes to, hey, you busy? No, I'm just prioritizing. I'm prioritizing. How you doing? I'm prioritizing. That's what I'm doing. I ain't gonna be like I'm busy. No, I'm prioritizing. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of it's more intentional. You know, it's that we ain't just throwing darts at the board or at the wall, hoping that we hit a target. We've been intentional about, okay, I see this as that's the target because that's the value added priorities. Let me remain focused on, no, I don't got time for that. Nope. Nope, squirrel. Nope. I ain't chasing that squirrel. I ain't chasing squirrel. I'm staying focused. I'm remaining focused. I'm practice a habit of stillness and remaining focused on value added priorities. What that may look like is getting yourself a planner, getting yourself a plan. I tell you, fam, this ain't earth shattering now. This ain't earth shattering. I'm telling you, it's common sense, and we're gonna put it into common practice. Okay. School of Leadership, getting you a planner and start developing those habits, writing down your weekly goals. And this has done wonders for me to write down Sunday, sometimes on Monday, depending on if I schedule. And really, set the right time, right? Putting this really into practice. I like to do it on Sundays to say, okay, what's my goals for the week? And a lot, and sometimes is personal, sometimes it's work related, sometimes it's happy hood related. What's my goals for the week? And the funny thing about my wife, she helped me out this week. She said, "Be nice to your wife." That was one of my goals this week. You know, that's one of my goals this week. Be nice to my wife. And I've been nice to my wife. Not to say I mean, it's just a little joke there. But again, what's your weekly goals? It can be, hey, making sure I take my wife out on a date. Oh, schedule that spa. Let me little stuff like that. Value added priorities. Come on, fellas. Come on now. Somebody talk to me now. Value added priorities. You know, let me make sure I do. It's remaining focused. No, I don't got time for that. I'm remaining focused. And getting the plan and writing down your weekly goals. This will help you to develop that habit of stillness to what? To create a lifestyle of rest. We're creating lifestyles here, family. Lifestyle of rest as a leader. We need that to be effective. Okay. Last thing I want to discuss here. Are you getting this? Hit the like button right now if you feel like, hey, this is very helpful. Okay. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification and share this. If this is helpful, go and share this with someone. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is time, the habit of time, right? Develop time as a habit. And what I mean by how I'm defining that, right, is setting boundaries that protects the value of who time, your time. And this connects us to the social rest, right? And this is again, when you think about again, going back to that feeling busy, going back to like overcommitting. Come on, somebody. I got something right now that I know I have overcommitted. And I need to find a way to kind of get out of it. But I'm trying, or just go ahead and have the conversation. Go ahead, leader. Go ahead. I'm a leader. I can have that conversation. But I have overcommitted. And it's because I ain't practiced stillness. I ain't set no boundaries on nope. I already got 3 or 4 things I'm doing. That that's my boundary. Boundary again. This is you value your time. That's my boundaries because I know when I get too much into it, I'm stretched. I'm stretched. You know, nah, my time. I don't got time for that. I value my time. Setting boundaries that protects the value of your time. This will help you around social rest. Okay, this type of rest that will help you. Okay, and this again, this is made look like scheduling downtime, in order to have some date nights, going on, taking time for a sabbatical. you know it may also look like, having a certain time that you either, I'm gonna read, I'm putting in time, I want to be committed to 2 hours or 10 hours a week towards my business. You know what I'm saying? There's my boundary. I do that from 5 to 7. You know what I'm saying? That's my boundary. After 7, I gotta put it down and make sure I get some attention to my wife, to my kids, whatever the case may be. Setting boundaries. Develop time as a habit. Okay. Developing time as a habit. So we talked about rest. We talked about creating rest as a lifestyle. Okay. We talked about, again, the importance of rest and just kind of talking through the foundation, right? Of just kind of taking us through from a biblical perspective, as well as just as a theoretical perspective. Okay. And we talked about it, from the what causes us, the factors that cause us not to experience rest, these bad habits, to now what are the good habits? Those good habits is recovery, experiencing stillness and time. Okay. Family, I want to thank you so much for joining me for Happy of the Podcast, School of Leadership. Again, I hope this has been helpful. Don't forget to, again, like, subscribe, share, and let's continue to do this. We got so much more in store for you during this series that I truly believe that will ignite the leader in you, as well as raise up future leaders. Again, leadership is not a title, but a choice. Happy family, be strong and know that you were created for greatness. And no matter what life may bring you, always love your God, love yourself, love your neighbor. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray. Until next time, be blessed.